All righty. What is up, my friend?
Good morning.
What say you? Oh, you're
All right.
fine. Your audio is
Good.
great.
Good.
Yeah.
So what? I better pause. Rookie move. Okay. So thanks for letting me come on just real quick. I won't. I'll try to keep it short here, but we'll just focus specifically on tracking. So I know that many have talked about it, including Jeff, where you guys provide a broker a link to your tracking. Could be, well, used to be Keep Trucking. What's that, Motive now? Or it could be whatever version of ELD you're using. A lot of them nowadays have tracking links. So I had a load that was picking up on Friday, and just so you get full disclosure to know the kind of more back history, it was a partial, and it was supposed to deliver. Well, it was supposed to pick up Thursday. The carrier didn't pick it up till Friday, and then, which is fine. And but when they left, we had a little border delay. They were hesitant that it was going to be solved, and I assured them it would be, and it was. It took a minute, but it got solved. And but on my load confirmation, I said deliver Monday or Tuesday, so 19th or the 20th, with 24 hours notice. So Monday comes, no updates, no nothing. And same with Tuesday. And I got super busy, and my fault. I should have emailed them sooner. So anyways, Wednesday morning, I'm realizing that there's been no communication by the carrier. So I reach out to the carrier saying, hey, what's going on? Sorry, yesterday was Tuesday. So I checked, hey, is your driver on track to deliver today? No. So they said, here's our tracking link. Okay. So they sent me the tracking link. So I look at the link, and he's about 341 miles. That's when I emailed you. Well, shortly after that, after back and forth, I had texted Steve saying, do you know of a suggested truck stop for overnight parking? Because this carrier says, well, yeah. So I said to him, okay, you provide the tracking link, and this is where the question. So you provide a tracking link to a broker, which is great. So if a load goes for, say, 3 or 4 days, it's a long, 1,500, 2,000 mile run. That's great. I don't need to call you to see where your truck is at. I won't bug you. I can do the math myself. But here's where the thing comes in. The one thing I cannot see is the driver's logbook hours. So when a driver has, like yesterday, so I look at it, well, he's not going to make it into, it's basically Kansas City, Kansas area. I won't disclose the exact location that I did to Steve, but it's in the vicinity. It's a suburb. So I look at it. So he's 341 miles away. And based on the time, it's going to be 6 or 7 p.m. before he gets there. So now I don't know if he had other stops, and I don't know where his logbooks are at. So they said, no, yours is the next stop. Okay, great. But my customer was expecting an appointment time. But they said, well, so I said, will he be here based on his clock? If he stops at this time, he takes his 10-hour break, he can be here at this time. So I went back and forth after this link. Like, I can share the email, but to summarize it, they said, well, I said, so he could deliver for 8 o'clock. I said, they actually start at 6. They work at 6 till 4. That's why they said, well, what time are they working until Tuesday? I said, no, it's going to be, there's no way he's going to make it because they leave at 4:30. So, okay. So I said 8 o'clock, or he started 6. Well, he's working off Pacific time, so there's no way he's going to get up at 4 in the morning to be there for 6, because we don't know where he's going to sleep. He doesn't know where there's truck parking. I'm like, well, okay, I can help you. So I started giving them locations where you can stop. And then they're like, well, he's 61. He's not an early riser. Well, you didn't disclose this to me at the start of the load. And the whole point is, it's a great carrier. I've worked with him for years. It's the fact that when I just asked, where's the driver? When's he going to deliver? They sent me the link. Great. But when you say, why do brokers keep calling me? It's so if you have a load, here's the best practice. Tip 1. So if you can share a link, share the link. That's great. But then put a reminder on your calendar that if the load is more than a day, like say you pick up today, you're picking up a load at 10 o'clock this morning, and you share the link to the broker, and your plan is to deliver. Today's Wednesday, so Thursday. So you're going to deliver Friday morning. So Thursday at noon, put a reminder to email the broker to say today saying, loaded, here's the tracking link. Put a reminder for the next day, because unless you tell me up front saying, hey, my logbook hours tell me that my driver will be at this destination Friday morning, 7:30 we'll deliver. Please make the appointment. Unless there's delays, I'll notify you. Otherwise, here's the tracking link. We will be there. Great. So if you put those conditions up front, I won't bug you as a broker. I assure you that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just send me the link, here's the link, then you need to contact me 24 hours prior to delivery so that we can notify the parties involved. And so that's all you have to do. Like in this case here, they sent me the link, but my load confirmation said deliver Monday, Tuesday. They didn't follow that. And I find that with most of my Canadian carriers, they don't really follow. It's like the wild, wild west is when it comes to load confirmations. Once they have the load confirmation, they do what they want, unless you babysit them. And so with the load, again, with the tracking, so I can see where the truck is going and so forth. And this morning, I'm going to look this morning and see where he's at. But the point is, I don't see the logbook hours. I said to them, hey, if you want me, send me the back end office. I'll log into his account and look at his logbook hours, and then I can do the math, right? But I don't think carriers want to give that. And actually, it would be an interesting test. If you had a really annoying broker, I would email them. Here's the link and username and password for his ELD hours. I think most brokers would be confused. Like, what do you want me to do with this? Right? So that's all. That's the whole point of the story, is just simply, I could show you the comical email thread, and just be upfront like, hey, if you got a young driver and his goal is that every time he stops, he thinks he's got 10 hours. So what he does, I have this young driver, he works hard, but he likes to have fun. So what he does, since he's traveling the countryside, going from all over, his goal is that he stops when he takes an Uber, goes to the nearest cool bar, sits at the bar, and he sees where the wind takes him. Sometimes he's home by 10 o'clock and he's sleeping in his truck. Sometimes, well, he may get invited by friends to other places, and we don't know always. But that's his strategy as a trucker. He wants to have fun and trucks. So just be upfront. I'd rather be told that.
Yeah, that sounds dangerous. Now, I think where the frustration from drivers come in is, we'll use TQL as an example. They want you to track with their app, right? JB Hunt does this as well. But then they're still calling you. And so like one time I was under a TQL load. I was in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. I was on I-40 heading east into Arkansas. I was literally not near anything. And this broker calls like, hey, TQL, hey, I saw that you got picked up. Okay, so can you tell me what your location is right now? And all I see is cows and, an old farmhouse. And I'm like, I have no idea. And you're going to force me to lose. I cannot look at my phone right now. That is dangerous, to see where my location is. What does your app tell you? Well, it's I just need to know location. I'm like, okay, I'm an hour east of Oklahoma City. Okay, that's all I need. Click. I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes in. So what say you on that scenario?
Well, again, so let's say a driver does say, okay, I'm going to show up at 10 o'clock or whatever. And then, what the most notorious thing is? So I call people, get everyone ready for 10 o'clock, because we wanted the driver at 8. They said, no, he's not going to make it for 8. We'll be there at 10 o'clock or 10:30. Okay, fine. I convinced everyone 10:30. And just like this morning, remember I said they can deliver at 6 a.m. They're like, oh no, he's not an early riser. So then yesterday they said 10:30. Then I said, well, I said, where this place is going, there's other trucks that come there that is priority. And if your truck, that's why I suggested if they can deliver early. So there, I see the guy. I'm looking at the link right now on Motive. And sure enough, it's 9 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock in Kansas City area, Kansas. And I see that he's in the town near the delivery. He just turned off the interstate. So he's going to be there an hour earlier than he said. So good, but we said deliver it. He says, oh no, we'll be there 9 or 10. And then the classic story is they show up early. Or the flip side is they show up 3 hours late and don't call. I had that just the other day. I had a shipment that we picked up on the weekend, and we had picked up on Monday. And then we had 2 deliveries back to back, same carrier. I said, deliver at 8 and then 9:30. Well, I check at 7:45. Is your driver almost there? No. He had to do some yard moves. And so by the time he stopped, and he has to do his 10-hour break, Okay, well, it's just like that. Say you work for a company, you go back, park your trailer, and you have a yard. All of a sudden, the dispatcher says, "Hey, we're getting the back row re-gravel tomorrow. So can you help us for an hour? We'll pay you just to shunt these trailers, a bunch of them. We need to get that whole row emptied and moved over for us. So you mind helping us for an extra hour? You have time in your logbook." You're like, "Sure, no problem." But what does that do? It's fair. But that means that your 10-hour break starts later, which means that your next day's delivery or pickup is going to be later than planned. So it's okay, but just communicate that. Like the situation just the other day, all the carrier had to do was send me an email or text, "Hey, Rob, the driver got back later," or whatever the case is. Instead of delivering at 8, we're going to be there at 9:15 or 9:30. Right? That's all you have to do is just communicate. It's just I fight communication or lack of communication on a daily basis. So that's the tip of the day. If your ELDs have links, great, share them to the brokers, but brokers cannot be fortune tellers on what the driver's hours are. I'm not asking drivers to drive unsafe, and I don't expect carriers to disclose that. They just have to communicate to me what's reality.
You're not a fortune teller? Dang it.
Well, it's like this. The exact same scenarios on the time of booking load. So I had a carrier call me on a load, and I had this happen 3 times, in fact, because I have a load that's picking up this week, 2 loads, in fact, and they have to deliver Monday. But depending on your step deck style, the load, if you have an ultra low, you don't need permits. If you have a regular step deck, you're going to need overheight permits. So I'm talking to carriers, and my classic, they're always like, "Well, I thought it's ready today," and back and forth. But anyways, I'm asking these guys 10 questions only to find out that they were expecting something different. I'm like, when you call brokers, if I don't know your logbook hours, they say, "Well, when do you expect delivery?" My first question is, "What's your driver's logbook hours? When is he going to be empty? When can he pick up? What's it like?" I don't know those factors. Once you pick up, are you going to tell me that he needs a 34-hour? I don't know. I can't tell you those. So I said, when you're calling people, if you have a team, "Oh, I have a team." Well, then tell me that. Just say, "Call me up." I explained to them. I said, see here, we've been on the phone, because I can see on my phone how many minutes we've been on the phone. We've been going nattering back and forth about schedules, and we haven't gotten anywhere forward. If you pick up when I answer the phone and I ask you about it, and you say, "Yeah, I got a step deck. I have a driver that's going to be delivering here, and he can deliver by this date and time." Or I have a team drivers, or whatever the case is, because it's maybe he's picking up and it's going through his load and he's got to stop and do some paperwork for his plates or renew something, whatever the case is. Just tell me up front. You don't have to tell me every detail. Just say, "Hey, I got a truck that can pick up and deliver on this date and time. Will that work for you?" Based on the driver's logbook hours. And I'll say yes or no. And sometimes, hey, sometimes I'm willing to go back to my customer saying, "Are you guys willing to adjust for this reason?" Okay. Sometimes they will. It's how you present it to them. I have to sell. Just remember, to carriers, we as brokers, if we post a load with certain information on there. Now, we know that there's the issue of the brokers that don't post enough information, but let's just go with the fact. Let's assume there's a great posting. It tells you everything you need to know, right? You're like, "Oh, this load sounds, it's really informative. It seems like I'm pretty comfortable. I have a pretty good gist of what this load's all about," where it says, "Hey, you need 5 straps, or you need this," and driver, all this information is on the posting. So, okay. Now, if you want the broker to do something different, like if it says on there, "Pick up on this day, deliver this day," you're like, "This is a long lead time." And whatever you negotiate, saying, "Hey, I'm willing to do it for $150 less for you if you can convince your customer to take the load earlier," right? You're like, the broker might be like, "Oh, you know what?" So we have to take what you and I discuss and sell it to our customers. Because like this load that's delivering this morning, because I'm literally watching the driver, he's just driving down the street towards the final delivery location. I said to Mike, like, if I showed you the comical email thread, pretty long email thread back and forth, that, again, just a reminder, they don't see that I have an email thread with 15 people going on. And there's people that are even in the city that work for the consignee company. Like in this case, there's my customer, there's their customer, and then there's the construction company that it's delivering to. So it's all these multiple parties, and then there's multiple people within that. So sometimes this driver just thinks, "Well, I've got this one partial on the truck, so it doesn't seem like a big deal." Because even the dispatcher says, well, this guy's not going to work too hard for this load because it's only paying this much. Well, I paid you the rate that you asked me. We worked on this load. We did a very similar load 6 months ago, and that's why I called you. All right. I didn't post it. I called the same carrier. We've done the same load before. He says, yeah, when we booked this, he was all hot to trot that, yeah, hey, if you can get me the same price as last time, I'm fine with that. Perfect. So I did. In fact, I got him a little bit more because he kind of says, well, could we bump it up a little bit? And I did. And I got that. So all I'm saying is that, when you have multiple parties involved, you have to just be aware of that. As the driver sometimes said, don't forget you're not the only person on that load, even though it may feel like it sometimes. But there are always more behind the scenes than meets the eye.
Well, I'm going to bring you bring up a great point. There was a Facebook thread a while back where this guy said, "Hey, I'm doing this load for so cheap that I'm not going to do your tracking link. I'm not going to give you check calls," and everybody just tore this dude apart because it's kind of like if you hire a roofer and you can and he estimated too low, and then he comes up and he goes, "Well, since you're paying me so little, I'm going to do a half-ass job." You probably wouldn't hire that dude, right? I mean, so there's so many. It's at the end of the day, it's about communication. Mr. Charles has a question here. Can you do you hold them Canadian carriers accountable? They are disregarding the receiving window because that seems to be a big issue of carriers taking loads and not caring about being on time.
Well, I have. It doesn't happen often, but in some cases, if it's a load, again, that's my responsibility to know my customers. Oh, there's the driver just stopped, so he must have found his destination. So he's nice and early. So, anyways, to answer the question, it's my job is to understand my customer and the parties involved. So if it's a situation where it's going to a construction site, like where there's going to be 10 people standing around waiting for this product, or it's going to a production facility where this was needed, and it's affecting this is a raw commodity, or it was a part for their production that they've been down, and there's factors involved, and the customer. So I'm blatant because I've been burned by customers where all of a sudden something happens, the truck broke down and the driver was late, even though I legitimized what was happening. That the customer says, well, we're going to have to charge you back. Like, you're going to have to give me a credit to offset my labor cost. And I've had to do that. So I asked my customer, when they say this is urgent or must deliver on this date and time, then I asked them, is there a financial consequence if the driver does not? Straight up, before the load's even picked up, before they've issued me a PO, right? I'll say, I've got a truck. I'm doing everything I can to get it there, but it is trucking. There could be construction. There could be many things affecting. Just even last week, we had forest fires, which you'd think it's middle of June. What road should be shut down? Well, the main highway was shut down in a town that nothing was going around. We had to do a 9.5-hour detour. So the question, and that's why I offered my customers, should we wait? Do you want to go? And we went. We were still a little bit late, but at least they got the freight there. So the point is, the broker has to understand the circumstances. What are the consequences, right, of a load not showing up on time? Is there a consequence? Then to answer that point is, I will tell the carrier up front, when you're taking this load, these are the expectations and these are the consequences if not followed through. So if I haven't laid forth to a carrier saying, hey, deliver Monday or Tuesday with 24 hours notice, and they fail to communicate well with me, but I didn't tell them up front, hey, if you don't communicate, we're going to deduct this or we're going to do this, I really don't have a leg to stand on. In a sense, like that's, and I do tell them, think about it this way. I said, put the shoe on the other foot. You show up on Monday morning, 8:00. And they say, well, we're having a problem. Come back tomorrow. Okay, the driver's going to say, fine. What are you going to do? If that happens, a broker says, deliver at 8:00 is all set to go. You get to the destination, whether it's a job site or warehouse, and they say, no, come back tomorrow at 8:00. You're not going to, what are you going to, what would you do in that situation?
Layover pay.
Exactly. You're going to expect layover pay. Now, when you say you're going to be there at 8, let's say you have a driver says, yep, Friday afternoon, based on his logbook hours, everything else, he's going to be there. driver maybe had a breakdown or whatever happened, and even the driver didn't call you. All of a sudden, you're expecting the driver to be there at 8 o'clock, and he wasn't. He's like, he was still 400 miles away, 300 miles, like he's a day away. And he didn't tell you that he stopped, ran into a buddy or whatever the case is. Will you automatically give the broker a discount for being a day late?
No, but here's what's interesting. So basically the punishment for that is we're obviously not going to be able to do this load or work with this broker again. But here's the interesting thing. So when I first entered the spot market, very rarely did I see a rate con have a fine on it.
Never
Now
happened.
every single
Now you
rate
do.
con's got a fine. Yeah, now it's all over the place. Now it's like $100 if not tracked, $100 if no check call, $100 if you're late. And whereas 5 years ago I didn't see that at all. But you know what I did see 5 years ago? I knew personally drivers that booked the load knowing that they can't make that delivery time, and then come up with an excuse like, "Oh, I had a flat tire, I was roadside, or I had a breakdown, or something." And that's why. And now, what do you see? It should say if you're late on this load, and you call a breakdown, you need to show receipts. I had a.
I'm looking. My eyes might be looking away to show an example here. Because what I was going to say is, I think that maybe where the private spot market carriers and the brokers should be taking a little leaf or chapter of the LTL world. Because I have carriers that say, okay, even if you look at a lot of LTL carriers, so you have your spot market where you say you negotiate a rate, let's just say $1,000 for a load. Okay. All of a sudden, you get the load confirmation that says, yeah, pick up today at 2 o'clock and deliver the following week. Friday, say it's like today, you pick up today and deliver Friday morning at 8 o'clock or 8:30. You're like, good. All of a sudden, Thursday morning, we need the driver to deliver at 6 a.m. You're like, okay, he's got the logbook hours, but maybe in a lot of the LTL carriers, anything before 8 a.m. delivery is a surcharge, right? If we looked at it from a regular job standpoint, right? If you start a job, if you work at a warehouse and they say start at 8, but hey, we need everyone, we're going to have a super busy day on Friday. We need everyone to start at 7, but work your regular day. What does that usually assume? You're going to get overtime.
Overtime, yeah.
Right. So maybe because right now I still think that everything is all inclusive. And I guess we always have that struggle with even if we were to say, okay, take those cheap freights that we say is cheap freight. What if, if we say, okay, what if whether it's FMCSA or just an unknown that, it's kind of like the rules of trucking is that at minimum, any party involved respects the fact that you got a $200,000+ truck and trailer that's being used, and we respect it enough that we're going to ensure the driver gets at least that 80 cents a mile plus fuel, or $1 a mile plus fuel surcharge at minimum, right? So at least if you're coming out of Florida with $1 a mile, you're getting $1 a mile plus fuel. So the fuel's being paid for at minimum, and a little bit of money towards the truck and the driver, right? So what if there was some hidden rules that, like, let's say, let's take, your carrier. What if on your email says our standard terms and services? So when the broker clicks on there, or like you set up a new broker, so they send a carrier package. You send back a carrier package, like they send the broker package. You could send a 1 or 2 page carrier package that just says, when you work with this carrier, here's our standard terms. We will provide, tracking. We will do this. We will ensure our insurance is current. We'll ensure whatever the standard terms that you feel is your part of your regular business practices. If you want weekend deliveries, even deliveries, or anything before 8 to 5 is our standard terms, right? But anything outside those hours, additional charges will apply.
I kind of do that on an individual basis. So if I call in a load that picks up at 3 a.m. and the driver's willing to do it, I'm going to ask for more money on that one than say something that picks up 8 to 5 open window, for the next day, 8 to 5 open window.
Right. But
I
here's the
have a
thing.
little bit of leverage,
Right.
right?
But at the end of the day, though, 2 years from now, when you look back at a load at a lane, you're like, oh, we haven't done this lane for a while. And you look back in your access TMS and you look at this load, you're like, oh, yeah, we got paid really well because you saw this bottom line number because it's just entered as one number, $3,000. You're like, wow, we got paid 3,000. Oh, yeah, we only do those loads for 2,000 an hour, 2,200. Unless you put a note in there or really dove into the load with just by quickly looking at the report that you didn't show, okay, here's our typical rate, AM delivery fee, where you can actually see why you got paid more, right? It was a $200, $300 more because of that early AM delivery fee. So not breaking down the charges is, even if you, it's kind of like Landstar, right? You book a load with Landstar agent, you agree on $1,200. All of a sudden, when you see the Landstar invoice, it's all broken down with fuel and tarp fees and all kinds of stuff. But they still, it's a total number, but they break it down themselves. So
Right.
you there's no reason that you couldn't do the same thing in your system. Like you agreed with a broker this $2,000 or $2,500 fee, but you actually broke that down.
Yeah, that's a great idea, but it's unrealistic in the fast pace that we deal with, because you're dealing with drivers that don't itemize anything, and then you're dealing with brokers that really don't care. They just want the cheapest truck.
Right.
And so, they're hoping for the driver to not even know that, maybe you should ask for more if you're picking up at 3 a.m. That kind of thing. And when I do that, I don't say, well, I need an extra X amount. Every now and then I'll break it down like that personally in a phone call, but there's no like set rate. I just know I can ask for more. So there's so many moving parts that's kind of an unrealistic. It's a great idea in theory in a perfect world, but when you're dealing with drivers that don't care and brokers that don't care, it's all this stuff is minutia, and
But that's
at
why
the end of the
me as
day.
a broker,
Uh-huh.
I'm forever having 50 to 80 loads uninvoiced. Why? Because I'm not, I don't, everything I have, all my loads, if you looked at them, they are broken down. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not saying I never have no flat fees, just because I have
Right.
some loads where it's 10 feet of truck going from point A to point B straight for a load. But I deal with a lot of hourly business.
Right.
So I cannot just say, okay, we budgeted 10 hours and all of a sudden the carrier sends me and says, Rob, it took 15 hours. I have to know the exact breakdown where and why the delays occurred. Where was those 5 hours? So that next year when I do the same job, I'll look at that and identify, okay, when we requote and doing the same job, should I be budgeting at the same 10 hours I originally did? Because that 5 hours was actually, it was at a job site and there was a safety situation and all the work stopped for 3 hours. So that's an anomaly. Or if it was an equipment breakdown where I've had it where they're waiting for a forklift. But if it was the issue of the check-in procedures and everything else did take longer, it took 3.5 hours to unload the truck or whatever the case is, then I can go back to my customer saying, yeah, we have to budget this much time. And I need to break all those times down so I can justify it and figure out where it's fair and what's not fair, because I need to cooperate what the carrier is saying with the site. When I see that the load took longer, before I'm emailing my decision maker at my customer, I'm emailing the site contacts. Hey, so-and-so, that truck delivered? Yep. I see that they spent this much time on site. No, that driver was super slow. He took forever to undo his tarps and straps. Like we sat there forever. Or once we were done, he was just chatting with the guys, slowly putting his stuff away, wasn't, hustling at all. So now I'll go back to the carrier saying, well, were you aware of the following? So then sometimes that's where I negotiate. Just like the other day, I had a load picking up at a site and I was using a regional LTL carrier. And I said to him, it was 5 pallets. I said to him, I don't know the exact dimensions, like a shipped in product, but there's going to be less coming back out. So I literally dealt with this up till last night. because they picked up on Friday. They confirmed, yeah, Rob, it's all picked up. Here's your tracking number. Great. And I put on twice, I said, make sure, I put it clear. Please measure and weigh it. Tell me exactly what the weights were, right? If it's heavier, lighter, whatever. I just bill me according to the actual weights. The shipment delivers. I email the terminal for the scale tickets. Oh, we didn't do that. So we went back. I said, so hang on a second here. And this is what I deal with, because I deal with a lot of LTL. And LTL carriers, you know, they are so fast on the ball. When something is heavier, if I say 500-pound pallet and it's 625 pounds, it is rescaled, rebuild in minutes. But let's say the customer pulls off. They pulled off 5 boxes last minute when the driver was there, and now the shipment, they said, oh, that should be 425 pounds. And I email the carrier to rescale it. They are rarely, no, actually, I can say never in 16 years has a carrier came back and said, we rescaled this, it was lighter, so we reduced the rate. Never. They just, so this, in this case with the 5 skids, I put 5,000 pounds as a rough estimate. So I said, I'm pretty sure it was actually lighter than that. So we went back and forth, and what they're doing for me is they said, we're going to bill it at the cube at 3,200 pounds. But the point was the fact that they didn't measure it. So I said, I guess I should have put 5 skids at 500 pounds, and you would have never checked it. Right?
Well, T-Bone brings up a great point. He says CDN appears to be the exception to the rule when it comes to brokers. Well, I guess I should say agents that normally answer the phone. So, and that's the point, is that you've proven time and time again that you're on a whole different level than 99% of the brokers that I talk to. And
yeah, and I'm also doing
I'm
also doing a book of business that's different than most. Like, I'm not
right.
dealing with 20 loads of water a day. I'm
right.
dealing with a lot of project work where I'm doing multi-modes. I'm picking up at ports to containers. I'm arranging warehouses to get destuffed, transferring that to another piece of equipment, hiring cranes and other, stuff, and then getting onto a final truck and transporting it across the country to the final destination. I'm dealing with a lot of site deliveries, and I also deal with a lot of LTL. And let me tell you, LTL companies, if you're a shipper and not using a broker, guaranteed you are overpaying your LTL freight. Guaranteed. I can prove for a fact any shipper that does not have a broker doing their freight, let me audit. You keep booking your freight with a carrier, just let me manage it. Send me the invoices, send me the original bill of ladings and the PODs. I guarantee I'll save you money. Guaranteed. Because they're like, the LTL carriers, just they take face value, and they'll add fees without even questioning it. It's amazing. But that's why a lot of them are successful. But at the same token, but that's the nature of LTL freight. If you're going into the world of LTL freight, the whole idea is, if you're a shipper and you're like, yeah, I want to reduce my shipping cost, and you want to go LTL, just understand you have that responsibility to ensure that the goods are packaged to withstand the rigors of LTL freight. And what do you mean by rigors of LTL freight? That means that, remember, a local truck is going to pick up that freight. They're going to bring it to the local terminal. So that's already a transfer. Throughout the day, when that driver picks it up, if that truck was almost half empty, he might be juggling that pallet around. Or if there's other freight on the truck when he picks up and there's 6 pallets behind, you don't know, maybe he still has to make those deliveries. So he's going to be moving your pallets, your 1 skid or 2 skids around that truck numerous times in the day. Then he brings it to the terminal. They take it off. Then they're going to put it onto another truck. It's going to get moved in the warehouse from one side to the other. And then it's going to put on the truck, transport down the highway to the next terminal, and moved and shuffled all the way to the final destination. So it could be handled numerous times. So you need to ensure that nothing overhangs the pallet footprint. You need to ensure, like, literally, if I can say one thing, if you're a company that's shipping LTL freight and wrapping boxes on pallets, think of it just like a flatbed. A flatbed driver should be securing a load. So if that truck was flipped upside down, nothing falls off. Mm-hmm. And that's no different than a pallet. If you have a pallet of commodities or boxes or whatever's on the pallet, if you have a valve, a 450-pound valve, And all you did is set it on the skid and put some shrink wrap around it. Well, good luck. Just it's a hope and a whim that it's going to stay in place. That needs to be steel banded to the pallet, then shrink wrapped, right? That's the point. That you should be able to take that pallet, flip it upside down, and nothing comes off the pallet. So,
Yeah, you're definitely on a different level, CDN. So,
well, that's part
but
of but see, that is what happens though over time when you build relationships with shippers and carriers. The shared risk factor gets higher, right? That's what you have to be willing to take on. When brokers start to call you, hey, I've got another one of these loads out of the blue. They didn't put it on a load board. They just called you. Hey, do you have another driver that could do that same load? I do that on a daily,
mhm.
right? I have carriers that I just call them. I don't have to post on the load boards. It's a matter of whether they have the truck and it has the hours to do it. And I have a lot of, and that's why you're seeing more and more carrier brokers are doing the getting away from those one and dones, because of that fact. They want someone that they can trust with their freight, for that they're not going to get some new carrier that's extra cheap that's going to mess up their customer relationship. Now, the exception is if you're a broker that has those 20 loads and all this customer does is, and I've got some, they'll call me sometimes when they have a specific requirement, an urgent factor. They'll sometimes say, Rob, just do the best you can for the pricing, but I want you to manage this load for me. Versus you receive the email, you can tell it's an email blast where there's 10 loads listed, cheapest gets the load, right?
Mhm.
There's a difference. And that's not saying I do, kind of like you were saying, well, I got paid cheap, so I'm going to do a cheap job. Well, that's part and parcel of the process. And it's like, just like this, if you know that there's a shipper that has freight in the lane that you're looking for, and you know that they use brokers or they use carriers, it's not like they own their own trucks, but you actually know they have freight, and you're trying to get in there, then you may have to get your foot in the doors. You may have to take their crap loads for a little bit of time to build trust, show your consistency, and then over time, eventually get to the good loads. That's just the reality of it.
I like what Charles said here. The issue is everyone is wanting to battle each other instead of acting like partners on both the side of the carriers and the brokers. So what we see now is closed doors and cookie cutter logistics. And that's the frustration of the market today is people are angry, people are mad, people are desperate, and so everybody's making mistakes and not communicating, not realizing that a lot of the problems that they're having is due to themselves on both the broker and the carrier side.
Well, and in
So
closing, because I know we got to probably cut this off, but think about it. I always think about it this way. You guys always complain. Sometimes you guys reach out to a broker and you could tell that the broker's not working from Canada or United States, some other country.
right.
So my question is, how did they get the freight?
No,
That's the question. So,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And then,
Good.
so now this goes a little deeper. So is the issue the broker or is it partially the shipper? Because why, if the shipper is taking some brokerage, are they taking it because maybe they have a representative in North America, and then once that representative secures the freight, it goes off to some dispatch team in another country that's flogging the market to try to book these loads? So it could be. Or is it that the broker, this person was able to present themselves? How do they get their foot in the door where you've been trying for years and you're based literally in their city and you still can't get through to them, but yet some other company from another country is getting through? Like this, that just shows the complexities of this business.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So,
So, all right. Well, CDN, thanks for your input, man. As WCF Invader has said, CDN, thank you for your input. You're a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you, my friend.
no, and thank you guys again. Thank drivers. Without the drivers, well, we're useless. So it's a true partnership that I can have all the freight in the world, but if I'm not the nicest person and no one wants to haul loads for me, well, it does no good because that means I'm putting loads back to the shipper. So It's a circle. And all it is when you really start looking at the stories and everything else, I always keep using, that image of the fast paced, the lights in the city flying down. And that's all we are, is just taking pockets of time, because not one broker can move all the freight in North America, in the United States, and not one carrier can move all the freight, and not one shipper has all the freight. So it's a whole process. Respect the process, as you talk about consistency, and learn. And yeah, there's going to be some bad apples along the way. Use your notebook, use your TMS to know those ones, and let other people in your network know that these are not the greatest partners to work with, and then move on to find the next best partners that are going to help you achieve your business goals.
Good words, CDN. Thank you very much. We'll chat
Uh,
later, and
Have a great
you have
day.
a great day. Yep. Bye. Hey, this is Snorelord. Thanks for watching this clip from one of my live feeds. If you don't mind, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and we try to go live, and we try to do some recorded videos. And hit the thumbs up, and it helps the algorithms. It helps the YouTube, Google gods. So thanks for watching.